Morning guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Sarah here again, and we're back with another video. If you're seeing this beautiful face for the first time, please don't make it your last. We make great content here. We blog about motherhood, just lifestyle. If you're a young Nigerian or a young woman living in Nigeria, you'll definitely enjoy the content we have here. So do make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Now let's get right into today's video. So it's that time of the year where parents are planning for back to school. So I know some schools have actually resumed already, but other schools are resuming next week. And yeah, I just felt it's the right time to have a conversation about back to school, picking a school for your child, things you should consider when picking a school. Bear in mind that this video will be majorly for toddlers and children within nursery and primary school age. There's some factors that could also apply for a child in secondary school, but there are some that you could mitigate. So yeah, it's majorly for little kids. So the very first thing I want to say about when you're considering a school for your child is that don't just hear about, oh, there's this school that is good, and then you rush and go and register your child. I think especially for little kids, distance is very important. Survey schools around you, schools that are not far from your house, because you would see a little child, they're waking that child 5 a.m. to go to school. Why? Like, why are you doing that? Don't you want this child to have their full developmental growth? Please, as much as possible, if you can, pick a school that is not far from you. If you can even get a school in your estate, the better. But if you can't get a school within your estate and it's within your locality, I think it's the best. Go and check out those schools. Write a list of, okay, around me, not far from me, within the radius you're willing to cover. So for example, if you have a driver, you might be willing to go maybe a couple of estates further. But if you don't have a driver, depends on if you're comfortable with your child taking school bus. All these factors will determine the radius you want to establish. So establish that radius and then take a count of the schools around you and go and check it. You by yourself, you the parent, go and check those schools. Don't base on, oh, they have a good reputation. Yes, reputation is not the issue. What do you want? What are you looking for? What are you comfortable with for your own child? Because realize that those children are going to spend more than half of their days in that place. So you're not just going to put them in a place based on your neighbor told you it's a good school, your friend told you it's a good school. You go to the school. So when you go to the school, I also advise, when I mean school, obviously schools, I also advise that you go with the child you want to actually register in that school. Be it a baby that is not yet talking, or even more so important, a child that can already express themselves. Why am I saying that? When you take your child to an environment, whether it's a school, whether it's somebody's house or whatever, the way they react to that environment, you can tell if they are comfortable there. I'm not talking of a child maybe being picky or doing little, like kids being like, oh no, I prefer the swing in the other school. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how the child feels in that environment, especially for we that have children that are not yet in talking ages. You'd see how they react. Are they comfortable? Are they willing to just play around or touch things, or are they feeling like reticent about the environment? You should observe that a lot, because remember, it's not you that you're enrolling in that school, it's that child. So if the child is already in an environment they are not comfortable with, it will not work, especially because these children are angels. You need to remember that they are angels. They can sense things that as an adult you may not sense. A lot of times, if I go somewhere and my child is not comfortable with that environment, I will leave. I've been to a wedding where she was just not comfortable with the environment. This is a baby that has been going to weddings way before that. But that day, she wasn't comfortable and I left. Because you need to listen to your child's spirit. So yeah, please take the child along when you are going to visit the school. So you're in the school already. One very important criteria, especially for little kids, is how clean is this school? How clean is this school? I'm not saying, oh, was there dirt on the floor? Was there papers around? No, I'm talking of clean. Why? Because at this age, the major complaint parents have is their kids coming home constantly ill, one infection or the other. Either they have cough or some form of something, they are falling sick. This, yes, they can get it from contact with friends, but if the school generally has a very clean policy, that's how they will also take care of those toddlers, which reduces the effects of this constant falling ill. I went to one school when I was checking out schools for my baby, and this was school had resumed though. It was on the day of school resumption, and the school was dirty. Like, it was dusty. There was no paper on the floor or whatever, but the school was dusty, which showed that they are not prepared, they are not ready, and their attitude to cleanliness is just not it. The school my daughter is going to resume at next week, I went there, it was on a weekend, it was either on a public holiday, so there was no school. There was no school the following day, because I think it was like on a Friday that was a public holiday. They were cleaning the school. When I got there, the school was not only clean, but they were still mopping in preparation for Monday, and this was on a public holiday. They are not expecting anybody to come there, compared to a school where on school resumption children were coming and it was dusty. You need to wait. So apart from that, you just look at little aspects that would show how their approach to cleanliness and neatness is. So in my baby's class, there's like the toilets and bathrooms are within the class for little kids, all these reception, nursery classes in general. Then for primary school kids, yes, they have like communal bathrooms where on this floor maybe there are this number of bathrooms, this set of kids can go there. But for like the little stage, the nursery stage, they have their own baths in their class, meaning that they are only going to be sharing these bathrooms with like the kids in their class. It already reduces contamination so much. Like, it puts control on what they can catch, what they cannot catch, and I felt like that is a very big sign as to how much this school cares about neatness and cleanliness. Another thing you should look at are the facilities in general. All schools have a playground, they have classrooms and whatever, but look at more details in terms of the facilities. So when I went to the school where my daughter is going, I think as I'll be saying some of these things, I'll be attaching clips as much as possible. So the school that I finally picked for my daughter, so when we got there, the headmistress, she said there are 2 staircases, but that because I came with my baby, we're going to use the kids staircase. So there's normally a staircase where parents can pass through. I was like, okay, that's fine. I wanted the kids experience anyways, so we went on the kids staircase, and I just knew that the owner of this school was intentional in making the school. The staircase were children appropriate. They were so tiny. Like, you as an adult climbing the staircase, you didn't know you were climbing staircase. It's like you were just climbing a ramp, because the steps were really so small, like adapted to the size of their leg. My baby was climbing like no man's business. Like, that was something that really showed intentionality. Also, in their playground, it's carpeted for most of the, like, carpet grass for most of the areas. So when they are playing and they fall, they're not going to hurt themselves. They have a pool in my baby's school, but what is important is the fact that it's gated. There's a gate with padlock, meaning that children don't have access to the pool area. They only go to the pool area on pool days, and those pool days is only for children that their parents have consented for them to go. And obviously they are being monitored on those days. So on every other day, it's locked. You will not say, oh, my child went to the pool when there was no adheres to it. So there's so many little things like that. Like, you'd go to the classrooms and you see that obviously the seats are appropriate for like children age. Also the toilet seats are not grown children toilet seats. They are very little children toilet seats, very small, appropriate for their age. Like, those little facilities, it really makes a difference, and I feel you should look at that. Another thing is the attitude of the staff. So obviously you're coming to view and you know that they are going to want to impress you. So I wouldn't so much focus on the person that is taking you on a tour. I would focus on the other staff. So on that day, the cleaners were there. They had some of, I think, a in the classes where they're like babies, like toddlers, nursery classes, apart from the teacher, there were also nannies there. It wasn't a school day, so I couldn't really observe the school functioning, but I met those nannies, like they were in the school whilst I was visiting. And in their interactions within themselves, they weren't using any negative language. They didn't even know I was listening to them. They were not like, okay, they were seated somewhere and I was seated there. No, they were like on their own having conversations. We're touring, we're walking around. I was trying to listen to them. I also saw like some form of camaraderie, like they were friendly to each other. Like if they are already friendly people, if they are well spoken, if they behave in a certain way, you're more likely to know that they are going to behave in that way to your kids. You go to some schools, they are speaking pidgin among themselves, they are just behaving in a different manner. You would know that even in their interaction with your child or your children, they're likely to use those same methods of communication. So yeah, I just observed staffs in general, the receptionist, how did she treat you? She didn't know who you were when you came in, especially like for younger parents where they can't really tell if you're a parent or not. Like they didn't really know who you were and how did they receive you, how did they talk to you. And yeah, I think that is very important. Another thing I also look at or ask about is communication policies. What is the school's communication policies to parents? How do I get feedback about my child? It's not just, oh, they did well in class. How did the day go? How can I track and check if there's any incident in school? Do they have CCTV? It's very important. Do they have CCTV? Can you cross-check the CCTV? Do you have access to CCTV footage? Then what is the whole, some schools, like when you want to come and pick your child, you stay at the gate. Are you allowed to come in? Are you allowed to actually pick your child from the class and see what is happening? You need to ask all those questions, because nowadays we just live in tougher times. I wish it was how times were when we were growing up. It wasn't easy, but it was way better than now. You just need to be more careful. Picking in school is not more just, oh, the child is going to school, so just pick any school and then the child will be fine. No, it's really about what are the values of that school, what do the facilities look like, how does my child react in that school, and to me, the distance, because I don't want my child spending endless hours in traffic, waking up very early, closing from school, taking forever to get home. I still want my child to sleep a normal minimum of 10 to 12 hours and still get a good education. So yeah, I just felt like sharing with you guys my thoughts, how you would pick a school for a child, the things you should consider. I know I didn't talk about cost of schools in this video. Don't worry, it's for another video, because that one is premium gist, like how much is education now? It is well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.